and you're never giving them more than 4 words a day. You also couple this with a lot of story writing. So once they have a fair amount of words under their belt, they start writing the stories. And they're called free write. You give them a certain amount of time. Beginning of the school year, you'll probably get 20 words out of them in 10 minutes. By the end of the school year, I was getting 200 out of my high-end students in 10 minutes.
And they have seen some of the sample work
of
my first semester, second-year students. And it was pretty impressive to think that they could produce that much stuff. You know.
The grammar's not always perfect. It's not. It's pretty messy.
Yeah. And it's 200 words or 200 different words?
200 words total.
Oh.
So they're stringing together 200 words.
Lots of them are the same.
Lots of them are the same. You're gonna, well, because, you know.
They make sense.
Yeah, they make sense. It's a story, and there's a lot of repetition, and really because all you can do in that, by the end of the first year is, you know, a un lobo se llama Bob, le gusta eso, no le gusta aquello. Siempre hay un problema, se preocupa porque no encuentra su radio. Entonces, busca el radio pero hay un problema porque una ardilla le agarra el radio. I mean, who knows? Right? But it's pura tontería, but at the same time, they're producing a lot of language. And they're high enough frequency words in real speak that they can understand people around them, and that's really gratifying.
At what point should they have those 50 verbs down that you give them, or that word bank, or is that just something that they have in front of them?
Well, I would say I launch into stories after I actually go faster than Ray does. I launch into stories with about 20 verbs, and then I keep filtering them in. So by the end of the year, they'll have all 50 of those high frequency verbs, and they should have them all under control. Also, by the end of the year, because we do start to conjugate eventually, although Kathy will still have kids in her 4th year class who want to put everything in the present tense and 3rd person singular, because that's what we teach at first.
That's
because
what comes naturally.
Yeah, well, and also because it is the most normal form in Spanish. You don't get any of the strange spelling changes in that form. It's pretty predictable, which is why it starts in 3rd person. Also, so much of your life is narration. I mean, you do talk about yourself, but how much time do you spend talking about yourself?
But I also find that whatever you learned in the very beginning of the language
is what sticks best.
Yes, that's what's going to that's with you forever, and so it's so important.
Yeah.
That we actually give them some language that fits together. And the very cool thing about this method, which the other methods, I would have Fitz try to teach people how to ask questions in Spanish, and they acquire it because they hear it so much. How you change the sentence structure and the order, they just know what's right and what's wrong.
And
cool.
Otherwise, you're teaching you're teaching placement for those things. And there's nothing to hold out, there's nothing in your brain that makes you want to grab on to word placement if it's taught as a formula.
Correct.
Pues así aprenden los niños.
Sí, exactamente. Yeah.
Acquire it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So it's really tedious if you learn another language. Incredibly tedious. And as a teacher, it's incredibly exhausting because it is you on stage for the majority of the class and drawing things out of them. And it's more of a performance than normal teaching. I mean, there's enough of a performance skill in teaching anyway.
For the whole first year? Or how long is it that you do that?
I do, well, this last year I switched stuff up a bit. But generally I'll spend almost the entire year doing Tprs.
And it does not change even into the 3rd.
No, I mean really, if you're going, you can build a program with this method.
In the 3rd and 4th year, it's still a lot more teacher-centered than student-centered, even though you adapt much more. And that was a very huge transition for me because I've been so into pair activities and all these other things. Then have to transition to where I was a star, but yet I'm not because
Because you're drawing it out
You're
of them.
drawing it out
They're
of
creating
them.
it.
and
Yeah.
then they can go on and do things with it. But I guess you could say the disadvantage is, yeah, it takes a lot of
Energy.
And there are people in our schools, that's why there's
Yeah,
been a trend going back to the text, that don't
Don't
want to do
it.
it. But I tell you, I am the least likely person to be able to do this method because of my lack of mobility. And you know what? If I can do it,
Yeah.
anybody can do it.
Mhm.
It's also
And I've done it, and I do it, so.
truly substantially more fun. You get so much out of your students, and you build a whole different bond than you do when it's, now turn to page 7.
Do you do strictly storytelling? So I hadn't heard of this until this year,
Mhm.
well, until recently.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm teaching K through 8
Oh.
Spanish. And so I do a lot of stuff with directions and telling them to get up and do
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
and
The
whatever.
TPR. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So that's the same, but it's without the storytelling?
Well, that's
do
where
both?
this kind of evolved from.
Okay.
Was that the story Blaine Ray tells is that he had gone through a TPR lesson with his students, and he had a friend visit from somewhere in South America, and he said, "Okay, show them what show my friend what you learned in Spanish." And a kid strung together, el muchacho tira el zapato por la ventana, because those are all TPR words, right? Tira. Now, el muchacho gets thrown in there. And por la ventana, we teach that with, mira and señala and all those things, right? So then the kid walked up and he threw his shoe out the window. And Blaine went, dude, he just said something meaningful. Wait a minute. And so with that, he started the method. Also, background story, I think Blaine had been fired from 3 jobs because he's got the weirdest personality on earth. And
He's a strange man.
he's a strange man.
He is strange,
And
we'll
so
say that.
he couldn't follow a textbook without getting in trouble because he just couldn't do it. I mean, it just wasn't who he was. And so part of this was derived from Blaine being Blaine. Yeah. But what's ended up coming from it are first year kids. You can say, tell me a story. And they'll tell you a story. And you'll show them a picture and you'll say, cuéntame algo. And they'll go, hay una muchacha, se llama Cindy, no le gusta el helado, le gusta comer pizza. And after the traditional method, you don't get that.
No, you don't.
You say at the end of the year, write me 10 sentences.
That's right.
And they write you 10 sentences, and you usually don't grade them because they're pretty painful.
Now, as people are speaking, do you ever repeat incorrect speech like a parent and a child? Oh, baby, fall down. Baby, boom, boom, fall. Do you
Right.
do that, or do you?
Do I
you're always
correct?
correcting?
It really, that's interesting. It really depends on the situation. If somebody does a verb ending wrong, I'll usually go through and correct it.
Indirectly, you don't.
Yeah, indirectly. No, I don't say you say this.
Mhm.
No, I just go through and do it again, and then I'll ask the other person, someone else, the same question, and see if we can get the right answer.
Yes.
So that we kind of don't allow that to fossilize. We try to pull the right answer out of as many different people as we can, so we're not getting, I faulted, right? Yeah, yo sabo. So we're not getting that stuff. Yeah. So, as far as teaching conjugation, you do it real slow. You start with third person plural for obvious reasons. If they already know third person singular, it's just add an N. And that's all you say. Add an N. You're talking about 2 people or 2 things. Add an N. Just add an N. Oh, don't forget to add an N. Add an N to that. Oh, now let's write it. Good. Oh, you got the N. Good job. Why is it an N here? That's right, because it's 2 people. Exactly. So it's real slow. Then I tend to go to the tu form. Okay, so just go back to the he, she form and give me an S. And most of the time it's going to work just fine, right? Yo form is always the last one because it can be so irregular. One difficulty is that after hearing this method for most of the year, they don't believe there are such things as IR verbs. So the nosotros form for escribir is not escribimos, it's escribemos. And then you got to go through and really hash it out. Here's the problem, let me tell you why. And so I'll break those down and look pretty traditional with that. But that's the real big drawback.
And
the only big drawback.
I like the way actually that Blaine Ray, his stories, more than the Carol Gabb, which is the book that you guys have right there, how he presents, you know, the like quiero bailar, you know, the infinitive following an action verb. Okay.
Yeah.
He
I've
does
been
that
working to bring those in. He really does.
Effectively, really well. In fact, I really like how he does it in his stories. I like other things about her stories sometimes.
Hers are more interesting. His are really strange.
It's totally strange.
Completely odd. But he does a great job of bringing in kind of those compounds or the...
That they acquire very quickly.
They really
much
more
faster.
quickly
Than the traditional method. Okay.
And to be honest, this year I did, for those things, I did a very traditional method of teaching those. And, you know, I mean, my high end did really well. The rest of them have no clue. So.
And they actually made a concerted effort to bring in a little bit more of the traditional conjugations so that the kids could start
second year, and
getting them more firm for those who are going to go on with the language.
Yeah.
So we hope.
So they did a lot more worksheet-like activities, which I really don't like. But
demonstrate some of the circling, like with the books there.
Okay.
The readers. We
This
do
is
lots
lovely.
and lots of reading.
Now this is a horrible book. Really, I mean, it's incredibly painful to read. Even by the end of it, kids are like, "Cool, she's stupid." And it's because she is stupid. But it's okay. I mean, so instead of reading it to you, just start on capítulo 1 and read like the first 3 paragraphs. From Ana es una chica con problemas to Ana está en el año 9 de la escuela. Okie dokies?